Hi, welcome back. My name is Kremi, and if you have been following me on social media, you already know that I switched to a dumb phone in June. So I have some thoughts. Let's talk about them. So as I said, I switched in June. I switched a little bit before I had my exams, and I got this on refurbished. So just in general, it was a lot cheaper than the other ones. It was about 35 euros, and it came pretty quickly. It's very cute. It even has a front camera, and I was searching for this like flip phone experience because I really like closing it. It's quite nice. So I'm pretty happy with it. It also has an emergency button on the back. I have never used it. Hopefully I don't need to. In June, I pretty much got rid of my smartphone. I just put it away. I used it only for online banking because in general, dealing with sparkasse, it's a different video on its own. So just in general, banking stuff was on this phone because I don't really have it on my laptop. I cannot activate it on my tablet. So this was necessary for any type of online banking, but that is pretty much it. Everything else I did on this and laptop or tablet, depending which one I have at hand. So in general, that meant that I don't really have anything. I don't really have Google Maps. I don't have Spotify. I don't have WhatsApp. This is like the typical old school phone. The only fun thing that you have here is that you can change the wallpapers and you can also take pictures. That's pretty much it. But you cannot have more than 40 pictures. So you can't really spend much time on this thing, which is good, which is something that I searched for. I spent a lot of time in social media and it was 6 to 8 hours per day depending on the day. So in general, I was really sick of it and I felt like I just open it automatically and I just scroll without even thinking about it anymore. So I just really needed a break, and this definitely gave me a break. So this is pretty much why I got rid of my smartphone. As I said, I didn't really get rid of it. It's still here and I still needed it for some stuff that I cannot do on other devices. But in general, if I went out, it was with this phone. My smartphone was usually turned off somewhere in some shelf, and I just needed it only for special occasions, which was okay. I never really strike for perfection. My goal was to spend less time on social media, and that's pretty much what happened because I could access Instagram and YouTube on all these other social medias on pretty much only my laptop, and it's not really fun. It's really not made for a laptop experience. You don't really get the satisfaction of like scrolling. So I pretty much dropped my social media use to like 10-15 minutes a day, which still continues. The switch on its own was pretty easy to me. I already said that I switched in June. In July, I had exams, so it was like the perfect timing for me to switch to something else, so I don't really waste time during exams. I had a lot of other things to kind of get me distracted with studying and trying to, manage everything during exams. So I didn't really miss my phone. I didn't really miss social media, and it was kind of the great timing of me having other things to do. So I don't really have any bad experiences when it comes to switching. I actually expected it to be more difficult, but once my smartphone was out of my hands, I just didn't really need to be distracted. It took a little bit of getting used to me not being able to listen to music because I listen to a lot of music. Pretty much all the time I listen to music. This doesn't have Spotify, doesn't have absolutely anything. It has radio, but I'm not gonna listen to the radio. So it took me a little bit of getting used to going out on my own and kind of like hearing everything around me, cars and people and crowds and, people screaming, kids crying. But I mean, in general, it took a little bit of time for me to get used to it, but now general, I feel like a lot more things have opened up to me up to this point. When I was with headphones in Germany, I didn't really talk to any of the locals, right? I didn't really talk to any of the other people, grandmas on the street and whatever, because they kind of see that you're with your headphones, so they don't really want to bother you. Now that I got rid of them, I had a lot more social interaction, and I think that was a good thing in general. I was able to practice my German a lot more, and I started getting over this social anxiety of talking to strangers. It was pretty beneficial in that regard. I already covered it a little bit that I don't really have Spotify. I don't really have WhatsApp. So there is basically nothing on here. This is the only menu that it has. You have a calendar and you can't even put anything in the calendar itself. So just in general, I didn't really have much to do on my phone. I would use it to make calls, sometimes even send SMS, and that's it, which was pretty convenient when I was in the city. So I pretty much don't use public transport, and even if I do, there are timetables. It's not that complicated. But when it comes to actually traveling, long distance traveling, to the other cities, it's it's not great. So when it comes to traveling in Germany, it can be pretty hectic. It depends. I am usually unlucky. So for me, Deutsche Bahn is not always the best experience. Most of the time it has delays, it has changes. Very recently, I posted a video in which my train broke down. We had no electricity. We switched to another train. So it can be a lot going on. And this little device is not gonna save you because you don't have the ticket on it. And if you're gonna order the Deutschland ticket, which is the 49 euro ticket, you can have it only on a digital device. So you cannot have it here, you cannot have it printed. You have to have a digital device with you. And I can probably take my tablet, but that kind of beats the purpose of having this and having to carry something else when you can just have this and have everything on it. So I traveled a little bit with only this phone, but I was never alone. I traveled with my boyfriend. We went to Munich, but he had a smartphone, so he was able to check all the platforms, where we're going and everything. And of course, we needed navigation when it comes to finding the restaurant, finding something to eat, finding whatever. So this is something that you cannot do. And I think that pretty much makes it impossible for you to carry this around long term, considering how digitalized the world is currently. And the second time I traveled was with my friend Ilinka. We went to Mannheim. Pretty much the same thing. She had her smartphone, and these people that I traveled, they already know that I'm pretty much unable to help with absolutely anything when it comes to traveling. Well, except asking for directions. So she was pretty much the person who would navigate and tell us when is the next train and when is the next platform. And it gives you a little bit of more time to plan your time to go to the train station, and do you need to rush or not, and which platform and whatever. That you cannot do this. The only possible situation that I see is going to the train station, checking the trains at the time that you arrive, at these big boards, and after that just figuring out which trains you can catch, which I guess it's fine. A lot of people do that, but I feel like I'm so used to planning ahead and multitasking and being on time that long distance travel with this thing was pretty much impossible for me. And the problem is also that you can't really plan ahead. So I would try to plan something the day before, so I don't really need to search things up. But things with Deutsche Bahn constantly change, platforms change, the trains are late, there is another train, there's cancellation. Pretty much you can't really prepare for everything when it comes to this. Having a smartphone is very, very useful in these situations. I traveled recently, as I told you, and I pretty much gave up on this phone and I just use my smartphone for traveling. I'm thankful I did, because we had a lot of train troubles. I did end up missing my flight, but this whole time I was like trying to figure out if I will be able to catch it, if there is a point for me to run, what can I do? Am I gonna get a refund for the ticket? Do I have enough time to switch to another train? The other thing is you don't really have the ticket for the train either. So you can't travel only with this. You can travel in Germany if you have like a Bahn card that is 100, but that's pretty expensive. And that's pretty much it. If you have the Deutschland ticket, you have to have it on a digital form. And from my research, it seems like you can use sometimes a paper version depending on the state, but that doesn't mean that every state is gonna accept it. I feel like it's pretty much useless to have to go through that every time you're checked. And I don't really wanna risk it because online it said that a paper version might not be accepted, so therefore you can still get a fine. So my 2 cents on traveling in Germany with this. I wouldn't advise you to do that, especially if you're traveling alone. I didn't want to put myself through that. I tried it a couple of times. It was not great, and I think expecting it to work out for you and still wanting to plan ahead is pretty much impossible. If it's in the city, I think it's pretty much doable. Depending on the city, depending on your public transport, I think it will work out. It worked out for me. But when it comes to long distance trains, having actual meetings to attend, rushing for somewhere, yeah, this will not help you at all. And even if you go through finding out how to deal with a ticket, just buying a regular ticket and printing it, I feel like it adds a lot more time and effort. And just in general, I wouldn't advise it for a long-term solution. Last but not least, I got this in June. It's currently end of August that I'm filming this, so it's been a couple of months and I really like it. I think it's very cute. It fits great in my pocket. I spend a lot less time when it comes to social media, and I feel like I also got rid of this habit of constantly having to scroll. So just in general, very useful in that sense. However, there are a lot of downsides. One of the major ones is the lack of Spotify and the lack of Deutsche Bahn, Google Maps, and whatever. But of course, that depends on the person. I'm pretty sure that you might be able to go around these things if you don't live in Germany, because every country has different regulations and networks and public transport and whatever. So pretty sure that might work out for you. But for Germany, I feel like this cannot help you much at all. I thought that me lacking WhatsApp is gonna be something that I find a little bit annoying, but I actually found it quite nice. I found myself not searching for WhatsApp because most of the time I would just call people or text them, and I mean, I don't really have that many people in Germany that would require constantly checking on me, and if they do, they pretty much have my phone number. They can just give me a call. So that was pretty much my experience in these like 3 regards: Spotify, Google Maps, including Deutsche Bahn app, and WhatsApp. Regarding just in general experience, I really like it. I do miss the flip phone. I am old enough to remember them, and I think they're so fun to use. After a few months, I think I will go back to switch up to my smartphone. I mean, I already kind of did because I recently traveled, as I told you, and this was pretty much useless in that regard. But in general, I think I changed a lot more, so it makes it a lot easier for me to manage. I still don't really have any apps here that are social media apps except YouTube, but that's pretty much because I manage my YouTube channel from my phone as well. And I feel like I don't scroll at all anymore. Maybe just check Facebook, Instagram, and sometimes Tumblr, because I mean, why not? I don't know who uses Tumblr, but I do. I have a blog if you want to check it out. So I pretty much spend 5-10 minutes per day just to kind of check things. I spend a lot more time on WhatsApp and Messenger, but not as much as I would consider it to be a problem. So I think this little guy really helped me go through the transition of kind of getting rid of social media. And I don't really want to go back to social media anymore. I mean, I pretty much manage it from my laptop. I post a couple of pictures, but I'm pretty gone from there in the general sense. I don't really get notifications. I don't really post daily. Last time I posted a story was probably sometime in June, and I feel like that's fine. This works out for me pretty well. I will be not throwing away this phone. This will be probably given to my grandma because she can use it. That is pretty much my experience. I know some of you have requested a video regarding that, and before I switched, I also checked a little videos to see if it's worth it. I feel like it is. My 2 cents is that it is. If you can find something that is cheap, so I got this refurbished and I think it works great. There is actually no scratches. I don't know if anybody has used it before me. So if you can find it half the price and just know that you're probably jumping into it for a certain period of time, this is probably not going to be your solution to all your problems. Most of the time, it will probably create a lot of inconveniences, but I mean, that's part of the trouble. We have so much here that we're kind of getting used to constantly being active online and be able to be reached at any point in time, and sometimes it's just nicer to disconnect. But when it comes to traveling, yeah, I personally gave up on that idea. This is pretty much my 2 cents. I wish I could stay with it for a longer time because it was so cute, so much easier to carry than just a big phone, and having it in your bag is so much easier. You don't really have to worry about scratching and stuff like that, dropping it. But when it comes to actual traveling, it's not possible. So this is pretty much from my side. I hope you found this useful. I will link the phone below if you're curious to check it out. And yeah, I will talk to you in another video.